somewhere along. Oh, we
Did you
see
hit the
we're
button?
live. It's noon here on the East Coast, and this is news that you can use from YAA. And filling in for my lovely son Zach today is the F and I goddess herself, Miss Kimberly Klein. Kimberly, how are you? Well, I guess it's this afternoon. How are you this afternoon?
I'm so good, Ray. It is so good to see you. And can I just tell you how fantastic you look in that color?
Well, thank you. You and Keith seem to be of the opinion that that like a seafoam green is a good
Yes,
color on a slightly tanned older
it's
balding man.
fantastic. I love it. You get a 10 out of 10 on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Today is a big day for us, but more importantly for Zach's girlfriend. Today is Laura's birthday. So if any of you run into Zach and Laura in Portugal today,
Yeah.
please be sure to wish Laura a happy birthday. Happy 28th birthday, Laura.
Happy birthday, Laura. Happy birthday. Oh my gosh, what a great place to be for your birthday, too.
God, I think so. Although I was in Bethesda for mine. What can I tell you? Um, I thought we would start today's show with an article that I found. I think it was on MSN. I'm not sure.
Yes.
About guess what? Transaction prices on new vehicles went up again in May. Go figure. So if you bear with me, I'm going to share my screen.
You do it. Share it.
Um, there we go, share, and we'll go new car. Okay, so I think this is it. So the
Yep.
headline is new car prices rose again. Everyone's paying over sticker. Not everyone. Trust me, there are a lot of members of YAA that are paying
You got it.
MSRP and some who are actually paying less, depending on the brand of vehicle that they're looking at.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the big takeaway. The average new car sold for
Bum, bum, bum.
$47,148 in May. That's not
You're
quite as
killing
high
me.
as it was in December,
Uh,
which was the highest month ever, which is odd because that's typically the best month to buy cars, because there are typically incentives, but perhaps there weren't that many last year. May saw the second highest prices on record. The average sale price increased $472 from April. Now,
my
there,
gosh,
there's
Ray.
any number of reasons for this, as you and I both know,
Uh-huh.
um, and the biggest reason we like to believe is the chip shortage. I'm going to stop sharing this for a second. The biggest reason we'd like to believe is the chip shortage, but I'm not buying that. I think it's a major player in it, but I'm not buying it. I think, and I want your opinion on this as well. I think the major reason that prices are up is because, to a certain degree, the manufacturers know they can't produce as many cars as they used to. The
Yep.
dealers aren't getting the allocations that they used to, and they're busy pre-selling or taking reservations on their incoming allocations. Um,
I
a-
agree. Yeah.
and there's enough demand that it's been easier for the dealers to get the customers to pay more.
Yes, it has been. Never in my wildest dreams would I ever imagine that the average new car sold for $47,000. What? Well, then I'm not average anymore because that's just crazy, crazy, crazy. And they say that prices for both new and used vehicles are showing signs of stabilizing. That frightens me. Does that mean they're stabilizing at these prices, Ray?
Well, I think that's what it means for the short term. Um, I believe, and I could be thoroughly wrong because all I'm basing my thoughts on
Yeah.
are having lived through economic downturns several times through the course of my life. But I will tell you, entering the economic downturn that we seem to be entering this time, I don't recall being in a situation where the demand was still relatively strong,
Mm-hmm.
but the supply is exceedingly weak.
Yes.
Typically, when we've gone through these downturns in the past, the supply has been real strong and the demand has been weak.
Yes.
And because the supply was so strong and there was so much inventory on hand, the manufacturers and the dealers had to be very aggressive in trying to relieve themselves of those vehicles.
Yeah.
And
So,
that forced prices down.
right. Which makes sense, right?
Yes. Today,
Uh-huh.
even if
It's
we
just,
go into a recession and there's ample demand but no supply, this really could be a stabilization of the pricing as we know it, and we might not see a major decline in the price. I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, I hope you are too, but according to Rebecca Rizowski, research manager of economic and industry insights for Cox Automotive,
That's a mouthful.
that's a I was just going to say that. That's a mouthful. But you know what, Ray? I found also, listen to this. Prices, okay, so we know the prices went up for nearly every segment of the new car market.
Yes.
What do you think saw the largest increase, going up $888 on average? That
Um,
would be
if I remember correctly, it was pickups, wasn't it?
trucks. Yes, trucks. And get this, and you and Zach say this all the time. Van and minivan prices also increased by $726 in May, while SUV prices rose by $526. So trucks and the vans. And hey, let me ask you something, Ray. Whenever I saw this about the vans, and it's kind of mind blowing, but you know, there's this whole world of what they call van life on YouTube. You know, lots of people are outfitting vans and they're living in their vans and they're traveling. Do you think that has anything to do with it
Um,
for demand?
I think that has some to do with it, but I think for the most part, it's more like delivery and work type vans
Ah,
that just aren't available.
yeah, yeah.
And because they're not available, the pricing of those has gone up. I think it has more to do with that than it has to do with, well, so many people have decided
They're going to leave their
they're
house
just
and live in their van.
they're just going to live. No, I listen. There are plenty of people that have decided to do that.
Yeah.
Those people that have decided to do that are not poor people. Okay,
No.
um,
But
they're driving.
it's a lifestyle.
Yes, it's not my lifestyle, not one I would personally choose. But yeah, and what really amazed me is we've been seeing gasoline prices going up religiously
Yeah.
for several months now, and so you would have thought that at least by May, people would have been saying, "I don't know, I don't want to be buying one of those gas guzzling trucks." Um, But I'm going to pretend like I'm Zach here for a moment. I'm just going to check something,
Okay. Yeah.
because I didn't do this earlier today, but I'm just curious as to what gas prices are today. I usually check it every day.
Uh-huh.
I just pulled it up, and gas prices nationally, as a national average, are for regular gas is $5 and almost 2 cents a gallon. So call it
Mhm.
5.02 a gallon. It went up again since yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, it is up $1.36 from a year ago.
I mean,
Um,
what?
we so on a national level we have cracked $5 a gallon for
Yes,
regular
we have.
gasoline. So at
Crazy.
what point do people say, I want something that's more fuel efficient. Now, it's not like the manufacturers are making those vehicles anymore. They did away with
Yeah.
their small cars.
Right.
The Honda Fit was discontinued. A lot of the small cars don't exist anymore. The limited chips that manufacturers have, they're using those chips for their high profit margin vehicles like SUVs and pickups. So even if you were somebody who said, I want I want something that's fuel efficient, you'd have a tough time finding it.
You sure would. You know what? As a matter of fact, you're in a really good position if you happen to own an older Geo Metro. You remember those? A Geo
I
Metro with
do. Yeah.
low miles because they go forever, and what they were great cars. I love the Geo
That was
Metro. If you
a
have one
one
of those, good
that
for
was a
you.
wonderful 3-cylinder vehicle
Yeah.
manufactured by Suzuki.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. No, I remember one of those because I had a Suzuki Sidekick,
Okay.
which was the little mini Jeep looking like vehicle,
I remember those.
and Geo had their version of that, and that Sidekick is
Yeah.
actually the vehicle that my wife and I. Oh my God, my son
What?
is on the screen. Um,
Oh my God. There he is. No one is
yeah,
paying over sticker here in Portugal. Just saying.
yeah, well, yeah, yeah. Well, that's good to know. Anybody stop you yet, Zach?
So glad to see you, Zach.
Oh my, I can't believe, you should be paying attention to your girlfriend. It's her birthday today.
Exactly. Get off the stream and go pay attention to Laura. Happy birthday, Laura.
Oh my God, what am I going to do with him?
I don't
Um,
know.
anyway, my wife and I actually drove cross country from Atlantic City to Phoenix, Arizona in a Suzuki Sidekick.
Do you remember the Suzuki Samurai?
I do. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
little one, the little
Yeah,
tiny one.
yeah,
Yes, I had
yeah,
one of those. I love that
yeah.
thing.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Not really comfortable, but so much fun.
Oh no, forget about comfort. But let's say the other thing here is the average price in the same article, the
Yes.
last line, the average price for a new EV electric vehicle
Uh-huh.
was over $64,000.
Who's that for? I mean, I keep saying it every time we speak these crazy numbers. I keep saying,
Yes.
who's buying this stuff? Who can afford to buy this stuff? Now,
Oh my gosh.
speaking of electric vehicles,
Okay,
I want to switch gears. I'll pull it up. I'm going to share my screen,
let's do it.
and I'll do my best to sound like my son here, where I go, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Here we go.
Here we go.
Automakers urge Congress to lift EV tax credit cap. That's not the type of cap you put on your head, by the way.
No.
That's the type of cap that says once you've sold 200,000 EVs, your EV sales no longer qualify for federally sponsored rebates.
Yes.
So the CEOs of GM, Ford, Stellantis, and Toyota are saying, "Hey, we're going to invest $170 billion on
B with
EV
a
production through
billion
2030."
with a B.
Yeah,
Yes,
billion
that's a
with a B,
lot of money.
and we've got a great idea to help us recoup some of that investment and to make these EVs even quasi affordable for the upper middle class and the upper class of people in this country.
Yes.
Would you please continue the tax credits for the foreseeable future until, I don't know, the EV business becomes profitable? That to me takes a lot of nerve from the
It,
manufacturers. I don't know how you feel about it,
well,
but I don't want to pay for rich people to be able to buy their EV.
you
And
don't?
if we're going to use tax dollars, I haven't figured out all the ways to, I don't know, circumvent paying taxes. So I don't want to be that dumb SOB that is actually footing the bill for these people.
Oh my, I just don't even know what to say about that, Ray. I don't. I just I'm speechless for once.
It just seems to me that I appreciate the fact that those four manufacturers have said, "Gee, we're about to invest $170 billion," and all the rest of the manufacturers, at least, excuse me, on the books, have committed upwards of $500 billion. Um, and I know that in Europe, it's a big thing. EVs are a much bigger thing than they are in the United States.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's not like anybody came to you and said, "Damn it, you have to spend this money. You have to." The world just wants you to figure out a way to make more fuel efficient vehicles,
Yes.
less
Yes.
carbon emitting emission vehicles. Um,
But who's
the
going to pay for that? I mean,
and
look, $64,000 for a new EV.
my point is, does it have to be electric? I mean, aren't there other avenues available, other
Options,
ways to
yeah,
go
to do
that
this.
would
Yes.
produce less emissions, that would make us less fossil fuel dependent? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that, I don't know, you could take that $170 billion and invest it in other things. Um, I know, like, if you live in the Southwest, I know, like, I lived in Arizona for 20 years.
Uh-huh.
Water is an issue. It's
Yes.
okay, but it just seems like hydrogen, which is mostly water, uh, wouldn't hydrogen vehicles make more sense? Um, and maybe even require less infrastructure. I don't know. But wouldn't figuring out how to make a car run on water, and maybe you can recycle the water vapor that comes out of it, out of whatever exhaust. Wouldn't that make more sense than?
I Yes, Ray, it would. And you're really thinking outside of the box here. And I think that's what we need. The problem is if they did come up with a vehicle that would run on water, they're going to still charge us $64,000 for water and metal. I mean, it's all about this, buddy. It's all about this, you know.
It is all about the dollars, and like I say, I don't necessarily want to be the one. I mean, I do
Yeah,
my best to pay as little in tax as I possibly can,
me too.
but I still pay tax,
Hmm.
and I don't want to be the one subsidizing these purchases for people who could literally afford it on their own.
Yes.
Okay, um, a $7,500 tax credit doesn't mean anything to somebody that earns 40 or $50,000 a year and can't afford, even after the tax credit, to consider an electric vehicle when the average transaction price is $64,000. Those
No,
people never fit into the equation.
I was just going to say it does not equate. And if you do a deep dive, and we'll have to do this sometime, maybe Justin, I know Justin knows way more about this than I do, but if you do a deep dive into those tax credits, well, you really get an eye opener as to how they can be applied, who benefits the most from them. Um, it's not, even there are still people out there that think they're going to take $7,500 off the purchase price of the vehicle.
Well, it's not, because it's a
No.
credit that you get against your taxes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're making $40,000 a year, guess what? You're probably not paying $7,500 in taxes, in federal taxes. So that's $7,500. I don't know. Maybe it's a carryover for a couple of years. I don't know. But it's really not going to. It it just seems to me that we're we're footing the bill for those who could already afford it.
Yes, I am 100% with you on that, Ray.
Well,
100%.
I want to switch topics, if I may.
You
Okay,
may.
because I know how you feel about electric vehicles. You know how I feel about electric vehicles.
Yeah,
I believe our entire audience out there
they
knows,
probably do.
yeah,
Yeah.
has a pretty good idea as to how I feel about electric vehicles. So I want to go back, and I want to talk about something a little different. Um,
Okay.
and it's farming. Okay.
Oh,
Now
farming.
I know you're thinking to yourself, farming. What kind of farming?
Potatoes?
Well, I used to be a potato farmer when I actually worked in a dealership, and I had to fill my bushel basket with potatoes every month. But that's a different story for a different day. Um,
Okay.
this type of farming is dealerships farm for service technicians. Okay, and they're not really, like, plowing fields and stuff, but
Yeah.
this is about a gentleman who developed a model of hiring that is different than what the traditional recruitment practices are. As
Yes.
you know, from having worked in the car business for a number of years, one of the hardest things for a dealership to do is to have a full and complete tech staff. In other
Yes.
words, the mechanics on hand to actually work on cars. And everybody you talk to in the industry is saying, "Man, we just can't get enough technicians. I don't know where to get some master techs." And so they all poach from each other. Okay,
Yeah, they do.
everybody tries to steal the master tech from the store down the street and bring them to their street, and they to their store, and they promise them more money, and they give them raises and this and that, and and that works to a degree, but it doesn't really solve the problem.
No,
And go ahead.
yeah. Well, because the other dealerships, and you know this, Ray, it happens all the time because the other dealerships steal them by saying, "Hey, come on over here, I'll offer you some more money." Because season techs, especially, or master techs, oh my gosh, Ray, they are so important. All the techs are important.
Yes.
All of them are, but I love going to this day. I go into the dealership that I worked for 9 years, and a couple a couple of the techs are still there.
Yep.
You better believe I trust these guys.
Oh my God.
And they know what they're doing, and they are so valuable. But
They are worth their weight in gold.
oh, they really are. They really are. But all the time, dealerships across the street, down the road, they're just trying to steal each other's text by saying, "I'll pay you more. I'll pay you more." So
And
this, yeah,
yeah, this guy, he set up situations with public schools,
yeah,
technical
I love
schools,
this.
to kind of like bring um, kids in that were interested on an intern type basis. He brings in candidates from local high schools, trade schools, or associate degree
Trade
schools.
schools, yeah.
Yep. And puts them through a rigorous 100-hour internship program that,
Hmm.
if completed successfully, results in a full scholarship at Toyota's Technician
I,
Training and Education
I
Network.
love this. I love this so much. And it
So,
doesn't take, look, listen, this is a wonderful program. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we should be doing this. But this Sean Vaughn person from
y-
Mike Calvert Toyota in Houston, he he does it.
and he
He
gets it,
applies this.
and it
Yeah.
works, and it worked because you take kids when they're young and nobody wants to employ them because they don't have the experience,
Yeah.
and he gives them an opportunity to earn some experience, and by doing this, he creates loyalty with
Yes.
these kids once they come on and work for him full time. So, you know, when the dealership down the street's trying to poach them, they would
Yeah.
have no interest in going because
You would hope not. You would
well,
hope not, because look what's been, yeah, they've helped you along the way, and you get this scholarship to go through the Toyota training. I
yes,
I can imagine. You know what, I didn't look to see how much that costs to go through that Toyota training,
it can't be cheap.
but I'm sure it's not cheap. And if you can put me through that, I love this so much, Ray, to take these guys and women
Yes,
and put them through this. What I don't like, there's something that I don't like about this.
I'm listening.
I don't like that he calls it farming.
Yes, yeah,
Farming, really? No, let's give it some better. Come on.
yeah,
Come on.
because these kids aren't growing out in fields. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like you're planting crops. I get it. It's just he looked at a problem and he approached um, the response to the problem through a
Uh-huh.
different lens than everybody else uses.
Yeah.
Everybody else uses let's poach them. Let's go talk to these mechanics that are working elsewhere and see if we and ultimately in a lot of those cases what happens is you bring aboard um, a tech from a different store, and then suddenly the tech gets there. He's not as enamored with the new store as he was with the old store. He doesn't feel quite as comfortable there. Uh, the techs that were already there resent him because they know he's getting paid way more than they are.
Yeah.
So it creates an animosity, and so this guy looked at it and said, "There's got to be a better way." Um, I remember some training that I received when I was with the Penske organization, and the trainer said, as a sales manager or as a manager, as a general manager, your job is to figure out how to get over or past whatever rocks are in the middle of your road. Okay. The owner is not paying you to say, I couldn't figure it out. There were rocks in my way. Okay.
Mhm.
He's
Right.
paying you because you're supposed to be smart enough to figure out how to get past any blockages.
Yes.
And and oftentimes in order to do that, you have to think outside of the box. There's
Yeah.
you hear it all the time. Well, think outside. Well, my theory was there should be no damn box. Just think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I think Sean Vaughn's he's doing a really good thing here. And he's doing it to me, I would say he's doing his best to try and help others
Yes,
and to create loyalty at the same time. Sean, change the name. Don't call it farming.
yes,
Just
yeah,
that's it. That's
yeah.
it. Just don't call it farming.
Call it human engineering. Just kidding.
Well,
Uh, but speaking of employment and different things, I
yes.
want to share one other article with you and with
Gotcha.
our audience.
Uh-huh.
Share. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Here you go.
This is GM, General Motors, drops their 4-year degree requirement for many jobs and will focus on people's skills instead. So
What? That
yes,
is a crazy idea. Are you
now
telling me I don't have to have a full you mean you're gonna look at my skills and
you
not just my piece of paper from college?
yeah, because last time I checked, college deals in theory, and well, skills deal in practical experience.
Yes.
The skills that you've developed by actually, I don't know, living life and working. Um, I'm going to share a brief um,
Okay.
scenario with you, and I'm going
Yes.
to stop sharing the screen so I can see you. Um,
Okay.
when I worked for Penske, we had a training division. I mean, we literally had a training department. We had trainers, and we had a fellow that worked there. I'm not going to mention his name, and he
Okay.
he trained salespeople on how to sell cars. Well,
Okay.
we fell into the Great Recession, and so they cut back the trainers at the training center,
Uh-huh.
and he was offered the position of being able to go to any of the stores that he wanted to go to as a salesperson. He taught newbies how to sell. Okay. So
Okay.
he went to our BMW store, which was the largest BMW store in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
He failed miserably.
Ah.
Okay. He
Ah.
Because there's that old saying, those who can do and those who can't teach. Okay. And
Yes.
he can't and he couldn't. So he taught. um, there is no substitute in my mind for
Yes.
actually being able to learn a craft and apply the skills that you've learned while actually doing it as
Yes.
opposed to just studying about it.
Right.
And I believe that's what GM's trying to do, and they're trying to diversify their workforce in such a way because some of the people that would help them to uh, increase the diversity of their workforce wouldn't necessarily be able to have had the opportunity for some of the education requirements that GM had in the past.
Yes. And I love this so much. My son and I were just talking about this the other day too, Ray. Don't get me wrong, because I saw this really cool thing on Henry Ford
Uh
and
huh.
where he came from. He grew out of very humble beginnings, and we were talking about, back in way back when, you
Yes.
could just call yourself an engineer, study under an apprentice. Even
Hmm.
further back, you could call yourself a doctor or a
Yes.
physician because you studied under that doctor or physician. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want a surgeon hacking on me without that piece of paper hanging on
Yes.
the wall.
Yes.
Okay. But
Yes.
listen, there's so much room and so many talented people that can fill meaningful, helpful positions without that.
That
Well, this piece of paper has a really big price tag on it too. As
yes,
we know, college is its own business, but I love this. I think this is great.
I will say from experience, if I may, and I don't know if he's still watching from Portugal, but my son, God bless him,
Yeah, perfect
is
example.
the perfect example of somebody who dropped out of college, not because he couldn't have stayed in college,
Yes, yes,
but he dropped out so that he could be there to help his mother when she became ill. But he gained practical experience working for others and grew within that organization to go from a assistant web developer to the chief operating officer of that business before he left it to go start up YAA.
yes,
You He got practical real life experience and he applies it to everything he does. And he didn't need and doesn't necessarily need the educational background provided by many universities and colleges in America today to be
yes,
successful.
right. So
So,
I 100% for this and the Toyota store.
yes.
Bringing people in for that too. Love it. It
N-
makes my heart nice and fuzzy.
Well, I don't want my heart to be too fuzzy because if it's too fuzzy, it gets clogged. Uh, but believe it or not, Kimberly, we have killed more than a half an hour today.
Oh, we did. Can you believe it? It
Yeah,
goes so fast, Ray.
yeah. Hopefully, we didn't kill any viewers,
Hopefully not.
or,
I
or
hope not.
or any of our YAA members today. Um, so I'll be back here. Who's on? Let me just check one thing. Who am I doing this with tomorrow? Tomorrow it's Phil.
Phil,
I'll
yes,
be back here again tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, with more news that you can use from YAA with Phil. And
yes.
I want to thank Kimberly for taking time out of her busy day. And
Oh, thank
you,
you,
you
Ray.
might not have any idea as to how busy Kimberly is, but she is very, very busy. And I want to thank you for participating today and help me kill another half hour in our day.
And real quick, if Zach is still listening, I just want you to know your dad is doing so good. He's doing so good. He really, really, really is.
Well,
Pat, pat, pat on the back, Ray. You're
I
doing
don't
an
know how good
amazing
I'm.
job.
I don't know how good I'm doing, but I am proof that you can teach older people new things. Um,
Oh,
as long as you're open minded, uh, trying my best.
you're
Everybody have a great day. We'll see you
yes.
back here tomorrow at noon with more news that you can use from YAA. Thanks again, Kimberly.
Thank you, Ray.